So these are the routes to the top of Kilimanjaro. And the one that you see called the Umbwe Cave Camp, on the red line on that one, that was the one I said we could do. And then we ended up doing it. Here's more for you. How can you break your goal into smaller pieces? And think about, using climbing for me as an example of how we're breaking it down into small pieces. How are you able to, take that goal and break that down into smaller pieces? And then write some of the steps on a piece of paper. When you get home and you do think of a goal, write it down. And then what steps will it take to achieve that goal? Small steps, of course, do make it possible. For me, it was all about training before the climb, and the kind of stuff we did for Mount McKinley, for example, was snowshoeing in the winter. Pulling a sled was what I had to train for, and as you can see, I was carrying that big truck tire up and down my dirt road, and that was no easy thing. So it really helped me out with carrying a sled. And as soon as I got to the mountain, after doing that for several months, I was thinking, oh, this is really nice, and it made me stronger. And then carrying a heavy pack as well. I would carry a pack, go up hiking with one, using it while throwing the tire, and hiking some steep hills. Kind of where we live are some pretty fairly steep hills right in our backyard, pretty much. So we got the forest right behind us. Using rope gear was a skill I had to do. Was a skill I had to learn of, before I went to Mount McKinley, because there are some technical parts where you need to know your ropes and your ascenders and things like that. And then you got the cold weather to prepare for it. And there's not much you can do for that, but another thing too is how I could train for the altitude as well. I was able to sleep in this hypoxic chamber, or a hypoxic tent, that I put around my bed. So there's this machine that will lower the oxygen levels so that I can grow more red blood cells and become ready for the climb. So we did that for the last few weeks before we left for the climb. And then, you guys, and for me, it was all about keeping an eye on the big goal still. But keeping it in your mind, while you're breaking down the steps, know that that's what you got to achieve. Don't lose sight of your final goal. And you may get distracted of other stuff. There were some times where I had to think of, okay, there were some downtimes. I never thought, I'm not going to do this anymore. For me, I never really wanted to quit, but there were some times where I just thought, man, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And you got to find people who will support you, your friends, your parents, your aunt, your uncle, your cousins, people who are willing and able to support you, and people who will encourage you along the way, saying you can do it. And talk about your big goal with other people. So share with them how you're going to break it down into small steps, and never give up. Never lose sight of that goal, and don't give up until you achieve it. And remember the small steps. And then here, and like I said, the big goal, climbing the 7 summits. And then here's the smaller goal, Mount Everest. That's the mountain right there. And like I said, there's camps along the way. And the first camp that we got to, I think the first thing was to fly to Kathmandu, the capital of Nepal. Get our gear ready, meet our Sherpas. In case you don't know what Sherpas are, they come from a tribe out in the Himalayas, and these guys are the strongest, humble, nicest guys you can ever meet. And these guys know the mountains super well and super strong. And these were some guys who we were able to take with us and use them to guide us, and we became very good friends along the way with them as well. And then so from there we drove to base camp of Mount Everest, which is at 17,900 feet. And it's still at a very high elevation. And then past that from base camp, we could see Mount Everest. And we're thinking, okay, that's what we got to do. But first, we got to get to intermediate base camp along the way. And then once we get there, we celebrate that small victory, saying, all right, we did it. Now our next goal is advanced base camp. We get there, and that's where we spent most of our time at. We're thinking, okay, all right, now, and it's not really, and you're not on Everest going straight up. You of course have to make some trips up and down between the camps, and it was to acclimatize for the mountain. If you go up too fast, that's not healthy at all, and it's really bad, and that's how many people don't make it to the summit. And then our next camp we were to focus on was Camp 1 to get to that, and then Camp 2 to get out, where we store all our oxygen bottles, and then Camp 3, and then get to the summit, and then once we get to the summit, we're only halfway done. And then you say, all right, let's get home now. To me, I think when I pull up to my driveway after climbing Mount Everest, I think that's the true summit right there. And that's what it's all about, is making it home safe. Because when you get to the summit, you're not done. Making it back home safe. And then we did make it. Breaking it down into small steps. That's our lead Sherpa right there, Pasang Sherpa. Big thanks to him for helping us along the way. This was his third time summiting Mount Everest, and of course my first. So there's a picture of us at the summit. Those oxygen masks right there, up on Mount Everest. It's so high that you can't rely on just the air and yourself to breathe it. We had oxygen bottles with us and oxygen masks too to help us breathe and get by up there in the thin air. And then it's all about believing in yourself. And in that picture right there, we were stuck in a pretty nasty storm right there. There are some down parts, but we still didn't want to give up. And we're thinking, all right, this small storm shouldn't ruin the climb for us. And then, no matter what, try to use everything as motivation. Don't let anything get you down. Use the negative people to push you. So for me, I had some people who were saying like, oh, you're crazy, you're too young, I don't think you're gonna make it. And then there were some people in the news saying like, I don't think this kid's gonna make it. So that gave me motivation to say, all right, I'm gonna show them. And then listen to the people who believe in you. Use them as motivation too, and let them help you do it, and encourage you. And then find more people to believe in you, and then find people who can help you do it, and encourage you, listen to you, and that will help you achieve your goal. And that's all. And what I said, it's about celebrating small victories. On Kilimanjaro, we celebrated as we reached each camp. On Mount Everest, we celebrated just getting to base camp, and we even sat down, had a nice meal and said, "All right, we made it to base camp of Mount Everest." And for me, I remember looking up at the mountain, and I called my mom on the satellite phone, and I said, "Mom, I'm happy as can be right now. I'm getting a view that not many people get to see in the world. I'm able to actually look at Mount Everest right here." And that was all that mattered. And I was happy where I could be. But I still wanted to give it my best and see if I actually could make it to the summit of Mount Everest.